this podcast, we're going to go over how to name amines using the common naming system. Something to note is this naming system is used a lot more frequently than the IUPAC naming system for amines. All right, so here's the rules. They're pretty easy. Again, just to have in your notes, know that the common naming system is used more than the IUPAC when it comes to amines, but you will be asked to name amines using both IUPAC and common on your exams. So you're going to start by naming the alkyl group that's attached to the nitrogen atom followed by the word amine. So if you have one group, you'll name the group and then say amine. You can have up to 3 groups, in which case you're just going to alphabetize or use prefixes as you would every other time you've named something in the past. So let's look at these 2 examples. So here we have a single alkyl group attached to our nitrogen. Notice that the other 2 positions where we could have alkyl groups attached are filled with hydrogens instead. So we don't have to worry about alphabetizing, but this would be a methyl amine, and that is the name for a very simple amine. In our second example, our alkyl group has changed, but the number of alkyl groups has not changed. So in this case, again, since there's only one group, there's nothing to alphabetize. We just name the alkyl group ethyl with a space, and then we call it an amine. So this is ethylamine. All right, so 2 ways you can approach this. If you're feeling confident, go ahead and do these on your own. Just hit pause on me, check in with me for the answers at the end, or you can follow along if you want some more explanation. All right, so the tricky part of this is now we have more than one group. So we have 1, 2, 3 groups on our amine. We are going to alphabetize those groups. And if you have di or tri or iso, those count for putting in alphabetical orders. So if you had dimethyl, it becomes a D that you are alphabetizing. We won't see a lot of that come up. We'll keep it pretty simple for your assessment, so don't worry too much about that. All right, so we have 3 different groups here. We have an ethyl group, we have a methyl group, and we have a propyl group. So for common naming, all we have to do is alphabetize those, stick them in as individual words with spaces, and we throw an amine on the end of those. So alphabetically, this should be ethyl, methyl, propyl, amine, and that is a mouthful. For our second example, I put this in here specifically because it looks so much like aniline, and it's not. Don't be fooled. We don't have resonance in that ring structure. We don't have double bonds. We don't have the circle in there telling us that this is an aromatic. So we are going to name this entire group as being an alkyl group. So this would be cyclohexyl, because we have 6 carbons in that cyclic structure, amine. Okay, and this nitrogen could have 2 other groups coming off of it. In this case, it does not. Again, you're just alphabetizing with the first letter in the name. So even though it's cyclohexyl, you would use a C in that, and you would alphabetize it as a word that starts with C. So for aromatic amines, we're talking about an aromatic or a benzene ring being directly bonded to a nitrogen. As you remember from our introduction to amines, we had classified this as being aniline. So you're going to do the same thing here. We're going to use a capital N to show the alkyl group is bonded directly to the nitrogen. So here's our parent group. And our parent group in this case is aniline, and it's okay just to call it aniline. We wouldn't call it anything other than aniline. Consider that to be IUPAC and common all mixed up into one. That is the only way to say it. But also attached to our nitrogen group is a methyl group. So we want to designate that this methyl group is attached directly to the nitrogen. We can't number a carbon chain. We don't have a carbon chain to number. So N-methyl aniline is how you would name this. And so again, that N is designating, hey, this methyl group is coming off of the nitrogen. All right, so for our second example, same thing. This time it looks like we have a group coming off of all three places that it can bond from the nitrogen, so it's all full. Again, we're going to start with our parent chain. So we know that our parent chain is going to be aniline. So aniline is our parent chain. And now we just worry about alphabetizing the other groups and then also being sure that we state, rather than the position of the group in the carbon chain, we're going to designate that it's coming directly off of the nitrogen. So we have a methyl group and we have an ethyl group. E comes first, so that's what I named first. So N, ethyl, N, methyl, aniline is our name. All right, so this would be a good chance to pause me, but before you do, I have a hint about this first one. So NO2 is called, and we haven't talked about this in a long time, but this is a nitro group, so you can just use that in your name as you're naming these, but the rest of these should be pretty self-explanatory. So go ahead and pause me, give these a try, and then we'll check back in with some answers. All right, so for this first one, we are again starting with aniline as our parent chain. So this is aniline, and we have a nitro group on the 4th position. So it's not coming off of the nitrogen, so it does not need to have an N, but this is 4 nitroaniline, and that would be one word. I'm just terrible at planning out my words. All right, for this next one, again, start with aniline as your parent chain. So the parent chain is aniline. That does say aniline, believe it or not. And in this case, you have a methyl group coming off of the 3rd position. So here, it would be tempting to say that, oh, we have toluene present. But amines take a higher priority than an alkyl group. So you're going to give the priority to aniline as being the parent chain and then name that methyl group as a branch. On our final example, we have 1, 2, 3 groups coming off. However, we are going to name aniline as our parent chain once again. So the parent is aniline, and we name these 2 methyl groups. Oh, this is going to make it easy. This is a dimethyl. The tricky part, and where students tend to forget, is when you say dimethyl. Anytime you say dimethyl, you have to give the position of both of those methyl groups. So oftentimes it's 2,3 dimethyl or 2,2 dimethyl. In this case, we have to make sure that we are saying the position of both of those methyl groups. So N dimethyl aniline for this